Hello, and thank you for joining us today at IFFGD's 2021 Virtual Advocacy event. Today, we are focusing on advocacy, ensuring that advocates have all the tools and answers they need to successfully contact Congress. And with us today is IFFGD's Washington Representative Philip Goglas II to discuss more about how Congress works. Thank you for being with us today, Philip.
Thank you, Marissa. Glad to be here.
Before we go into detail about how advocates can contact Congress, I would like to briefly mention that Congress is made up of two branches, the Senate and the House of Representatives. Each person has two senators that represent the entire state. And for the House of Representatives, each state has a number of representatives that is based on their population. And as you can see in an earlier video with Philip, he went into how Congress works and really went into more detail about why there is this range of representatives and how states can range from one representative to over 50. And the members of the House of Representatives have a specific district in each state or the entire state that they represent. So each person has one representative. So again, that's two senators for each person and one representative in their state. And to go into more detail about contacting, Philip, how can advocates locate their senators if they are not familiar with them?
Thanks, Marissa. And I greatly appreciate being with you again and seeing everybody who is participating in our virtual advocacy event. So thank you all. It's very straightforward in how to locate your senators if you're not familiar with them. The easiest way is to go to www.senate.gov. There on the left side, you'll be able to see a drop-down menu that is Find Your Senators. From there, all you have to do is locate your state, and it'll list both of your senators there. It will have links to their websites where you can click and explore and find out who your two senators are.
Wonderful, thank you. And once advocates are able to locate their senators, what is the best way for them to contact their senator? And especially if it is their first time reaching out to that congressperson.
So once you've located the websites of your two senators, the websites are generally very user-friendly. They have different tabs where you could learn more about your senator. If they're new, given that we're in a new Congress, there are some new members of the Senate. Or if you're not familiar with your senator, you can go see a little bit more about them, see what committees they serve on, some other information that's helpful for their constituents. But they also have a contact page. And on that contact page, you'll be able to see where their Washington, D.C. office is located, as well as a list of offices they have throughout the state. So we encourage everybody to find that office location that's closest to you, so that way you're able to connect with your local office. You know, for instance, if you're living in New York and you live on Long Island and you want to contact Senator Schumer's office, you would go to his website, you would look at his contact page, and you would find the office that's closest to you. With a state like New York, you know, Senator Schumer will have offices in Buffalo or Rochester, New York City, Albany. But if you're on Long Island, you'll look for the one that's closest to you. And they have the contact information there that you can reach out and connect with them. It all depends on the state. Some states have one or two, some have quite a few local offices, but it all depends on the size of the state.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that brief overview of how to contact senators. And now that viewers are more familiar with how to reach their senator and locate them, how can advocates locate their member from the House of Representatives?
Sure. So it's a very similar process. Instead of senate.gov, for your House member, you're going to go to www.house.gov. There, they're going to ask you for your zip code. You put in your zip code, and then it will guide you to who your representative is. Because districts are drawn in specific shapes and figures, you may be required to put in your full address, because there are some instances across the country where, you know, Marissa and I, if we're neighbors in the same zip code, we might have two different representatives just because how the districts are drawn. So you'll want to put in your full address there with your street, your town, your zip code again, and it'll give you specifically who your member of Congress is. Again, the same way you found your senators, click on the link to your House member's website. It'll take you there. You'll again be able to see a little bit more about them, what committees they serve on. There are a lot of new House members, so if you aren't familiar with who your member of the House is, feel free to explore their website to find out a little bit more about them. Again, they'll have a contact page where they'll show you their DC office, the contact information for there, as well as local offices. And again, it varies depending on where your district is, how many local offices there are. I know some members who only have one district office because their districts are rather compact and smaller. But then you have others who represent the entire state, such as Montana or the Dakotas or Delaware. So those members of the House often have quite a few local offices depending on location. So we ask you to find the office that's closest to you, give them a call, connect with their staff locally, and then ask to meet with or ask to speak with somebody who handles healthcare related issues, so that way you can begin to develop that relationship with them.
Thank you so much for that overview. And I'm glad you touched on as well to contact their representative that they should reach out to that local office and get that local connection that is closest to them and would be the best, easiest method of contact to really start a relationship with their representative.
Yes, so we greatly encourage everybody to call the office that's closest to you to engage with their staff. Most offices have other ways to contact them, but we strongly encourage you to call them so that way you can start to develop key relationships. Our advocacy efforts have been successful over the years because of the personal relationships our advocates have developed, and that's through working with the local office, sharing information with them, and then following up with them throughout the year.
Yes, that is absolutely true that the communication and the relationship you build with senators and representatives really helps to improve and push advocacy efforts. And if advocates prefer to share their legislative needs just over the phone, is it still important for them to also communicate via email, or can they rely on communicating with just one method or the other?
So we always like to have our advocates do whatever they feel most comfortable with. I know some folks would rather send an email. Some are more comfortable speaking to a live person on the other end. We want you to do what's best for you, but we strongly encourage communication via email, as well as a follow-up to a personal conversation you might have. This also presents us with the opportunity to share some specific follow-up information and materials to offices via email. And we at IFFGD are very happy to help you follow up. All we ask you to do is to email us at advocacy@iffgd.org or call us at 414-946-1799. Give us your name, the name of your representative, who you spoke with, and their email if you have it, and then we can work with you on that follow-up. But we strongly encourage you, as part of developing that relationship, to speak with somebody and get their contact information, so that way throughout the year, as different our priorities are introduced or working their way through the legislative process, you can follow up with them. If it's something about patient access that happens in July, you can follow up and say, hi, it's Phil again. We spoke earlier this year, and I just wanted to circle back with you on this specific bill that is being introduced, and this is why either it will greatly benefit our community, or this is why the bill would not benefit our community. But it's a good natural way for follow-up for us with our members in developing that relationship.
Thank you so much for telling us a little bit more about the importance of that communication. And are there any other ways for advocates to reach out and contact their Congress members?
Absolutely. We are in a world of social media, so I encourage folks to, if you're on Facebook, Twitter, follow your members of Congress there. They will be able to share updates on some of the virtual town halls they're having. They will share some events that are happening in the district. Of course, we ask you in your interactions with them to keep things very civil and respectful and germane to the issues that affect our patient communities, with specifically our requests. They're also on on members' websites different ways where you can connect with them as well. They have different contact forms where you're able to put in your information, share some of your thoughts with them, and then receive feedback from them about what about the things you asked from them. That is, of course, on the website, and they also have other ways that they have available for you to contact with them, as well as having, again, the addresses for their DC and local offices. Once we are through the current pandemic and we can get back to seeing each other in person again, we strongly encourage local visits to the local office, so that way, again, you can solidify and continue to develop and grow the relationships with the local office and then the DC staffers as well.
So great for advocates to be aware of the wide opportunity to be able to contact and the many ways that they can connect and stay engaged with their representatives. And as you said earlier, please email advocacy@iffgd.org or give us a call at 414-946-1799 with any additional questions or concerns that you may have with contacting your legislators, or if you may need any assistance in your advocacy efforts. And thank you all for taking the time to watch this video today. And thank you, Philip, for sharing with us this important information about how Congress works and how to contact your legislators in Congress. You can watch more of IFFGD's 2021 virtual advocacy event on the IFFGD webpage.
Thank you, Marissa, and thank you all again, and look forward to your feedback and successful engagement with Congress.